how did you get this thing in this time? And so forth. And, of course, I sat out there for at least 15 minutes. I think I sat in the thing myself to weigh it down and tighten it up. Welcome to the Balancing Act podcast with Team Brooks, where we will discuss family-related topics through a simple lens of faith, while also giving you resources to help every family live a healthy and well-balanced life. I am Chris.
And I am Ashanti.
And we are Team Brooks. All right, so today we're going to discuss parenthood, the first year. So we're going to kind of look back at the first year that we spent as parents and some of the trials, the tribulations, the good times, the bad times. Well, I don't think any of them were bad times. The challenging times, as I used to learn in corporate America. There's no bad. It's only opportunity or challenges.
Yeah.
So the opportunities we faced and things like that.
So we'll go from pregnancy to when we found out that we were pregnant, all the way up until our daughter's first birthday.
Awesome. So kind of starting it out. So I'll let you kind of tell because you knew, of course you knew first, but you kind of, how did you, when you found out you were pregnant, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
I was excited. I mean, before I took an at-home pregnancy test. Before I took the test, I did have some suspicions that I might have been pregnant, but I didn't want to tell Chris until I knew. I didn't want to, give him false hope. So I took the pregnancy test. It was in the morning time. Chris was still in bed sleeping, and I literally went in our bedroom, and I had the pregnancy test in my hand with the positive sign saying that I was pregnant, and I woke him up and I said, "Look, I got something to show you."
I remember that was probably the best wake up experience I've ever had, is to wake up. And I could tell something was up by your face. I knew like something was up because you were like grinning. You've never been able to hold a surprise. Like you start grinning. My wife is one of them people that when she tells a joke, she laughs all the way through the joke. So you can imagine that she's trying to tell me that she's pregnant. She's like grinning the whole time. So I knew it was something special. But I remember when you told me, I was just like, oh my gosh, because I knew we've been trying for a couple months. Fortunately we didn't have to, it wasn't like years or anything like that. We've been trying for a couple months, but I just remember when you told me, it was like I was just kind of in awe and shock. It took a while to set in.
Yeah.
So what was pregnancy like? I was there with you, but of course I can't experience it. I do remember some of it, but What was it like from your perspective?
I mean, overall, I had a good pregnancy, but it did start off a little rocky. There were some times where I did have unexplained bleeding that really, really scared us and frightened us. There was one morning before Chris was going to work, and I woke up like at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was bleeding. And we were scared. So in that moment, we called our doctor, because they're available 24/7. We spoke with them. They didn't seem a reason for concern, but they did say, if it does continue, then, just go to the hospital. And during those times we did pray. We did absolutely lean on our faith a lot, because we were scared. We didn't want to lose our baby. So we did lean on our faith, and we did pray and seek God for guidance during those times. So in terms of the pregnancy, that was the most challenging part. I had my doctor's visits, initially started off as monthly, then it was bi-weekly, and then weekly. I've never done so many urine samples in my life. I mean, I felt like every time I went, I had to pee in a cup. But that's just part of it, I suppose, just to make sure that everything's good, with me and the baby.
I remember when they had to take my blood that one time, and I was thinking, I don't like shots. Mm-hmm. And so I remember when the doctor said, okay, the next time you come, you're going to have to get blood, because they had to test both of us for something. I can't remember exactly what it was. But I was just like, hold on now. I'm not pregnant. I'm not supposed to have to get stuck. But I guess it was just part of it. So, I did what I had to do. So what would you say to those parents that, to the family that just found out they're pregnant, to that wife or to that mother, the soon to be mother who just found out they're pregnant? What should she be doing to mentally prepare for the next 9 months?
Yeah, there'll definitely be some challenges along the way. Every pregnancy is different, but I would just say go with your instinct and go with your gut. If something's telling you that something doesn't feel right, just go with your gut and your instinct, and, talk to your doctor, or, lean on your faith, and your spiritual advisors, because sometimes, doctors know things, but sometimes we have to push, we have to be our own advocate. So if you do feel like something's wrong, definitely, follow that instinct and go with that.
Yeah, definitely. I would say as a father, getting ready for the next 9 months of pregnancy with your wife or significant other, definitely prepare to try to take as much off of their hands as possible. Be prepared for the occasional, I don't want to say moodiness or mood swings, but the occasional different attitude, maybe, because things, the personality may be a little different, the conversations may be a little different, their patience with you may be a little different, and you got to be understanding of that. They're carrying your child. They're going through something that we never experienced, and so you got to be understanding of that they're going through those. And I can't say that I was always understanding, because sometimes it's tough. You got to remind yourself. There were times that I reminded myself after the fact that, oh, that's right. She's pregnant. You gotta give a little, because she's definitely not in it alone. As fathers, we don't necessarily. I don't know if I believe I can't say I don't believe that the pregnant. What did they call that when the fathers have the pregnancy symptoms too? Mm-hmm. Sympathetic symptoms or something like that.
Yeah.
I never had that. I never got the sympathetic symptoms or anything like that. I definitely believe it's possible. But again, you're going through that experience with your wife, and so forth. So you just got to kind of be there and be a support network for her. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And I would just say, enjoy being pregnant.
Yes.
Enjoy that time. I mean, it's a wonderful feeling. I mean, once you get past the morning sickness, it's a good feeling. I mean, you can gain some weight and eat food, and I mean, who can judge you for that? And I enjoyed that aspect of it, being able to eat and having a tummy, and they're like, well, I'm pregnant. That's why I have a stomach right now. So you can't really, you can't really fault me for that. I'm carrying a child. I'm giving life. So I would say, just enjoy those moments of, your pregnancy, and, it'll be good. I mean,
what was your biggest pregnancy craving?
Chili cheese fries.
You did eat a lot of chili cheese fries.
Chili cheese fries.
Yeah.
I was trying to think back about it. Yeah.
We went to Culver's a lot for some chili cheese fries.
Yeah, chili cheese fries definitely was one of the things I liked. And I think because, they say you really shouldn't drink too much soda while you're pregnant. And I'm not normally a big soda drinker, but when I was pregnant, I wanted soda. I wanted to drink Coke or Pepsi. Probably shouldn't say that, but yeah.
Was it just because you were told you couldn't? You think that had a part of it?
I think it was maybe part of it. Yeah, potentially.
It was soda and lunch meat. Those are the two things after you were pregnant. It seemed like you couldn't get fast enough because they told you during pregnancy you couldn't
Yeah,
eat
after I was.
you had to
Yeah.
eat cooked meat and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
So I remember after your pregnancy, like those were two things that you really never ate a lot of before, but afterwards you couldn't get enough of them.
I was like,
for
I
a
want a
while.
sub sandwich.
Yes, Subway sandwiches. Yeah, I remember that. So, did you ever? And I guess I can talk about it from my perspective too. The perspective that, especially being a Black woman, we've heard the statistics of Black women in pregnancy in America, and so forth. Did you ever have any concerns with that as far as some of the statistics that they talk about with Black women in pregnancy and mortality rates and all that?
Yeah. So to be completely honest with you, when I was pregnant, I really didn't think about those statistics. But before I gave birth, I did speak with a friend, and we were talking about my upcoming pregnancy and how I was going to have a scheduled delivery and that they were going to induce labor. And when I spoke with her, she's also a woman of color. She said that when you have induced pregnancies, sometimes the labor, it doesn't progress like it should. And the advice that she gave me, she said, if things aren't progressing like they should, you should always ask about how is the baby doing, and do I need to move forward with getting a C-section? Mm-hmm. And so that stayed with me. And when I was in labor, my labor, there was a point where my labor was not progressing, and they weren't doing anything about it really. And then eventually, the doctor did come in and they said, okay, let's give it more time. And then they came in the second time. When they came in the second time and things didn't progress, I was like, how is the baby doing? How is the baby breathing? And that was when I, was thinking about what my friend told me, and I was asking about, okay, well, what do we need to do next? Because they were going to continue to let me stay in this state longer than I probably should have, and I had already been in labor all day. And so at that time they said, well, we can't consider a C-section. And so after that, me and Chris, we talked about it, we prayed about it, and we did decide to go ahead and move forward with an unscheduled C-section after I had been in labor for multiple hours. And the reason I say that is after I delivered our first child, that's when I started really hearing and probably paying more attention to these things of how women of color are treated, especially Black women, when it comes to delivery. And I was like, wow, I actually experienced this. Yeah. And again, before I had my child, I didn't think about it. I really honestly wasn't fully aware of all of those statistics, but I did learn more about them afterwards. And I did realize, that what happened to me probably, it didn't have to happen. I probably should have had that C-section much sooner.
So I'm gonna put myself on the altar a little bit here, because that's something that has always bothered me, I guess, is I felt like I should have done more for you in those moments. It's tough to talk about. As I said, we're gonna have tough conversations on here, but I always felt like I should have done more during those moments. To kind of give you a little history, a little bit of backstory with that. So we went in for a scheduled delivery at about 6 a.m. I think in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning. When we went in, do you remember how many centimeters they say you were dilated? I think it was like
That's
2 centimeters or something like that. It was very maybe a little higher. But anyways, long story short, we went in. She was in pre-labor, I think is what they called it, or something like that. And so they went ahead and induced. And over the course of the day, roughly about 12 hours, of course, she became more and more dilated. But she hit, I think, 8 centimeters at around 2 p.m., if I remember correctly. By 2 p.m., she hit 8 centimeters. And so, long story short, by 6 p.m., she was still only at around 8 centimeters. And that's when the nurse had come back in and said, okay, you're not really progressing. The doctor had visited a couple of times, and she's also said you're not really progressing. And they presented us with the opportunity, with the idea that we should choose to have a C-section. During those 12 hours, during those times, there was a good 3 hours, I believe, that the nurse didn't come in. The nurse had not come in and checked on my wife or checked on us. Now mind you, they have stuff at the nursing stations where they're monitoring and everything like that. But they had not come in. They had not had communication with us after that 2 p.m. Range until a little bit later, like maybe I think 5 p.m., 4:30, 5 p.m., somewhere around there. Now, mind you, there were points in this where you become pretty sick. I think and I hope you don't mind me saying, but you did throw up at one point because I think just all the stuff they had given you and the pain and everything like that, it was pretty severe. Now, the nurse, of course, said that, it wasn't anything to worry about. It was normal. But again, as a husband and as a father, I felt like I failed in that role because I should have known 3 hours without seeing a nurse is too long. As a Black man, knowing the statistics of Black women and mortality rates with pregnancy, 3 hours is too long to not see a nurse. They had showed us how to tell contractions and when they're changing and all that on the screen, and to see that there was no change over the course of 2 or 3 hours, and to still not see a nurse was too long. And so, to the fathers and to the husbands out there, I encourage you, you've got to be your wife's advocate. Don't do as I did. Don't think everything's okay. Don't just look and say, okay, the baby's heartbeat is okay. Everything seems to be okay. The nurse will come in if something's wrong, because you've got to be your child's advocate. You got to be your wife's advocate. And I didn't do what I was supposed to do in those moments. And so that's something that I have to live with. That's something that, it took me a while to forgive myself for. I have forgiven myself for it. I hope my wife has forgiven me for it. But it took me a while for me to forgive myself for not being the advocate I should during those few hours. So again, as a Black man, as a Black woman, as a Black family, especially in this situation, you've got to be you got to be your own advocate.
Yeah, absolutely, you have to be your own advocate. I never knew you felt that way.
Yeah, I don't think we ever talked about it. It's one of those things that I kind of hid. Well, for one thing, because I did, again, there was I remember it vividly. I remember, I remember when the doctor came in and she said, you've been in labor all day and you haven't progressed beyond this centimeters of dilation. I think we should go ahead and do the C-section. And I remember when she said that the baby is fine, but if it doesn't progress, the baby could be put in jeopardy. And I never told you, I never talked about it. It's one of those, as a man, and especially if you're a Black man, this, we bottle a lot of stuff up inside. We don't really let these things out, but I feel like hopefully this will minister and help somebody. But I remember how little I felt at that moment. I remember how little I felt at that moment, that I didn't do what I was supposed to do to take care of my family. And I said, and I promised myself that I would never let that happen again. I would always advocate for my family above everything else. So anyways, so on to some more of the good stuff. Now that we done brought the tears and stuff like that over that. You remember how excited we were to go to like labor and delivery classes?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Let's talk about that for a minute. I was a very involved parent. I think I made every. Did I miss any of the birthing classes or anything like that? I think I made all of them, didn't I?
You went to all the birthing classes. You went to all the doctor's appointments except one. And the only reason I remember that is because my mom was thrilled that she was able to go with me to an appointment.
Right. Yeah.
Because you could only bring one other person with them. And of course, Dad trumps grandma. So she was pretty thrilled that she was able to go.
Sorry, Mom. But I did it. So I made it. I was very involved to try to be there as much as I could. But I loved the birthing classes. I loved learning as much as I could about the baby that was coming. I loved getting the doll and putting the diaper on the doll and learning all the burping techniques and everything like that. Even breastfeeding, when they were teaching how to breastfeed, to the extent that I remember once the baby was here and the lactation person came in and was trying to help you do the breastfeeding, like I just wanted to jump in and take over and show how to do it. You know, because like I was just so excited to learn as much as I could about this baby and so forth. So, but I remember all the classes. I remember sitting there. I remember going in and seeing the other people there. But surprisingly enough, though, what surprised me was there was more men there than I expected. I really didn't expect to see as many men involved with birthing classes.
Yeah, I think everyone had a partner with them. Yeah, it was a good thing to see.
It was, and some of them were black and so forth. And I remember that moved me, because I'm always moved to see black men taking care of their children and taking care of their responsibilities. And I remember seeing a couple of that, and that moved me to see them there and so forth. So.
And one other thing that we did do during the pregnancy was we had an app that we used, and we both loved it. Like every week, it would give. Yeah, it actually continues on beyond birth, but My Baby Center app, and every week it will give you like an update and say, this is what you're probably experiencing. This is what your baby's doing. So like every week you're getting an update on where your baby's at, the types of things your baby's doing. And it's actually pretty relatable. And even now our daughter's 4 years old and we still get updates every week about what our child is going to be doing. It's a really great app. And it just helps you to like, you know, think about things that your child's doing. It's like, oh, this actually is normal that they're doing this right now. So definitely, you know, look into those apps. We use My Baby Center. It's a really good app.
I don't know about you, but I know for me, I couldn't wait for the updates every week. Like you can look ahead on the app if you absolutely need to, but I didn't want to do that because I wanted to know exactly what my baby was doing at that moment. And so I couldn't wait for that midnight hour. There were a few times that at the midnight hour on the day that it was due, I was pulling that app up to see what's my baby doing and so forth. I remember I loved that app because I loved seeing how the baby was progressing and what the baby looked like and all that other good stuff. I remember what was it? It was peanut to
kumquat. It will tell you the size of your baby.
To water to eggplant and all that stuff. It was so cool. I love that app. So I also remember me and my oldest daughter, we used to have conversations. My youngest daughter did to an extent, but I had a lot going on there was a lot more going on when the youngest daughter was being born. But my oldest daughter, we used to have conversations at night. You would just be laying there asleep, and I'd be talking to the baby through your stomach, and she'd be moving, and you would just be asleep through it. She's telling me to move along. No. I can talk about the pregnancy all day long.
So I just wanted to say, like, in terms of like eating during a pregnancy, I was really, really concerned about not getting enough fruits and vegetables while I was pregnant. And I did look up like how many fruits and vegetables that you need to eat per day. So what I did was I had smoothies every day because I figured that was a good way for me to get them all in without having to like chew so much. So I did like have a lot of smoothies during my pregnancy just to ensure that I did get the fruits and vegetables that I needed for our unborn child. So it did work out pretty good.
Yeah. One last thing I definitely want to mention is be patient also with be patient with your child as well. The reason I say that because I remember when Annalise was in the womb, she was smaller. You remember when she was smaller than they expected? They measured the bones and all that, so they sent us to this specialist to kind of tell us. And it turned out it wasn't really anything. They said, "Well, don't worry about it too much. We'll continue to monitor it." Is basically what the gist of it was. And when I tell you, it was really don't worry about it because while she was small at like the 4th or 5th month, I believe. By the time she came out, she was in the 90th percentile and beyond on weight.
Oh yeah.
So and so forth, and height.
Right. Yes, during the pregnancy, they did send us to a couple of different specialists, and it's one of those things, like you're like, is there something I need to be worried about? Because you're like, when you hear the word specialist, you're like, okay, something's wrong. Why am I going to a specialist? But there really wasn't anything wrong. I think they were just having an abundance of caution with our child, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Our child was born healthy and strong. She didn't have any issues, so it was okay. But I think if there's really something wrong, they'll tell you. But sometimes, especially it was my first pregnancy, they were very, very cautious about things.
One of the things also, again, from looking at it from a simple lens of faith, as we talked about, we prayed a lot. So as you heard Ashanti say in the beginning, we did pray a lot. So when the doctor did come in, we wanted to know all those things, and we wanted them to run any test they needed to and be as precautious as they needed to. But on the same token, when we left and when we came home, we professed words of faith. Our baby is healthy. Our baby is strong. Our baby is not behind. I remember specifically saying our baby is not behind in growth. I remember saying that the doctor measured wrong because they were measuring on a using the ultrasound, and so it's like centimeters and millimeters and so forth. And I'm like, okay, they can get those wrong in a heartbeat. So I remember speaking words of faith over that and saying, okay, our baby is fine. Our baby is healthy. Our baby is well. And professing words of faith that as Jesus is in heaven, so is my baby perfectly healthy from the word of God. And so I encourage you as Christians and as people of faith that, yes, seek people's opinions, and here's the thing, and that's what it is. That's why medicine is called a practice, because it's not perfect.
Right.
So seek medical people's opinion. Yeah. And then go to the source and say God, and then proclaim God's word over it, and so forth. I still do it every night when we put the girls to bed. I tell them, you are blessed, you are anointed, you are highly favored, you are this thing, you will do amazing things, because I speak those words over them. So I encourage you to begin in the womb and speak things over your child.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so now the baby is here.
All right, so the baby is here. I did breastfeed both of my daughters. Now, I am not an expert on that, but what I will say is no matter what the lactation specialist tells you or what anyone tells you to do, when it does come to breastfeeding, just do what you feel is right for you and what you're comfortable with doing. And the reason I say that is when I had my first daughter, it wasn't easy. I thought it was going to be much easier than it was. There were some challenges with that. But one of the things was like, I just felt like everyone was trying to pressure me into doing some things that I didn't necessarily want to do. And they try to pressure you to make you feel bad if you don't end up breastfeeding or if you're not successful with it. And I'll just say, again, just if you want to proceed with it, do it. But if it doesn't work out for you, it's okay. You're not a bad mom if you don't breastfeed your child. You're a good mom if you know that it's not working out for you and your child's not getting the nutrients that they need.
Wow, that's a bar.
If you decide to go with formula.
That's a bar. Say that again.
You're not a bad mom if you decide not to breastfeed your child. You're a good mom if you recognize that your child is not getting the nutrients that they need. So I just say that from personal experience, because there were times where I felt like, oh my gosh, am I a bad mom if I don't breastfeed my child? And again, I'm not against breastfeeding because I did breastfeed my child, but I'm also not against someone that doesn't do it. So, if it didn't work out for you or it's not working out for you, it's okay.
And fathers, the same thing for you. Don't judge your wife. If your wife is telling you this is not working, I need to do something else to take care of my child, then you need to trust her judgment. I listened to all the experts. I listened to everything the experts were telling me, and I just thought I knew how breastfeeding should go. We are not experts. No matter how much we learn, no matter who tells us what, we are not experts. You've got to listen to your wife. So whatever your wife tells you to do in those moments and what she feels like she needs to do for that child, listen to her, because she's the one who ultimately knows what's going on with her body and how her child is doing in getting the nutrition that your child ultimately needs.
All right, Daddy Brooks.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's kind of go back a little bit and talk about, when you first get home with the baby.
Now, here's the interesting part about it. Mm-hmm. I heard multiple parents say that leaving the hospital was a scary moment for them. You remember? Mm-hmm. Were you scared?
No, I was excited.
I wasn't either. Like, why? What's wrong with us? Why weren't we scared to leave the hospital?
I don't know. Maybe because some people don't have the car seat installed before they go to the hospital. We did it like way in advance. We even went, we were the people, like, we follow the rules. What they recommend, you go to the firehouse and have the firefighter check it out to make sure it's properly installed. When
I went to take the car to the firehouse to get checked, the firefighter looked at me and said, "How did you get this thing in so tight?" Because there's a wiggle room. It's not supposed to move more than 2 inches left or right. Mm-hmm. And so he's wiggling, and he said, "How did you get this thing?" He said, "This thing ain't moving an inch."
That's why we weren't scared. Daddy took care of it.
He said, "How did you get this thing in this tight?" And so forth. And, of course, I sat out there for at least 15 minutes. I think I sat in the thing myself to weigh it down and tighten it up. But yeah, I remember that. But yeah, so yeah, maybe that's why, like you said, maybe that's why we didn't have the fear, because we had done all the prep work.
Yeah, with the car seat, we were, we read, we were nerds. I was, at least. I read a lot of things about what to do, and one of the things they said is when you get your car seat, go to your local firehouse and have them inspected to make sure that it's properly installed. So that's what we did. So we weren't at the hospital fretting and trying to figure out how to get it in there. We were set and ready to go. Yeah, we had gotten a, I don't remember what doll we got, but we had gotten a doll and placed it in the car seat to figure out how to do the straps and everything and all that. So now, with that being said, please don't take it as saying we weren't nervous. Because the day of, like leading up to leaving the hospital, I don't think we were nervous. But I do know that because at the hospital we went to, the nurse, of course, as with most hospitals, tells the mom they got to ride in a wheelchair down and so forth. And they'll typically put the baby in the mom's lap in the car seat. So one of the rules was when that we had to put the baby in the car seat in the room, and the nurse had to check and make sure that we knew how to do that, and that the baby was in the car seat properly. And then after that, the nurse would tell the mommy to go and get in a wheelchair and send the dad outside to get the car, or vice versa. Well, actually, no, it can't be vice versa. It has to be the one, the baby has to be in the wheelchair. They can't go get the car. So. They weren't going to let me leave the hospital not in a wheelchair. We all know that. Yeah, so the parent. Or grandparent. Yeah. Or auntie, uncle. Yeah, somebody besides the person that just gave birth.
Yeah, so whoever's going to get the car has to go get the car. So anyway, that was me in this case. I go to get the car, and I pull up, and I think it did not hit me until they were at the car and the nurse was walking away. that's when it finally hit me, like, this is all on us. You know, keeping this baby alive and keeping this baby healthy is now our responsibility. Mm-hmm. We don't have a nurse that is right in the next room to call on and so forth. Did you kind of feel the same, or were you cool and calm and collected all the way home?
No, honestly, I didn't have a moment like that. I think because our experiences are different, you know, I felt like I was already, I'm not saying you didn't feel like you were taking care of your child, but felt I was already taking care of my child. And so I didn't really, I know they say, like, you know, when you go home, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's on me. But I already felt like it was on us to take care of our child. So I didn't really have that moment. But the other thing is, like, I was taking, I did have a C-section, so I was taking pain medications. So I don't know if the medication
numbed her up. She was numb to those feelings.
I don't know. You know, I was in a huge amount of pain for weeks, and Chris can tell you about that. So, you know, I was taking pain medication. So maybe when we were going home from the hospital, I had numbed myself up to the point where I'm not freaking out. I felt great. I remember seeing Chris, you know, going out to the car. I remember getting in the car. We were excited. We had like a videographer following us home and everything like that. And it was a nice, we took the long route home just to, you know, kind of draw out the video a little bit. And we got home, my parents were here, my sister was here, and, you know, we took the baby to a room, we took some pictures. Yeah,
we had the room all ready. Yeah. We had done that weeks in advance and everything. So yeah, it was I encourage you to do everything in advance, not so that you don't have worries, but so that you can enjoy the moments. Because that is, I can honestly say, going home with our children were great moments because we had prepared for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is, if you're not able to do, and sometimes life happens and you're not in a position where you can do things ahead of time. But if you can do things ahead of time, when you come home with the baby, you're not trying to set up the baby's room, or you're not trying to, you know, find a bassinet for the baby to sleep in. All you're worried about is taking care of your child versus scrambling, trying to do all these other things for your child. It doesn't take a lot for the child when you first get home, but, you know, just having the things that you need for your child already, it does kind of ease up a little bit on the stress and the sleep deprivation that you're going to experience for a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There was one more thing I was going to say about the hospital. Mm-hmm. Definitely take advantage of the nurses. The first night, He-Man and She-Ra are here. We're like, we're gonna take care of Superman and Superwoman here. Said we're gonna take care of our baby, because if you haven't had a baby, you'll know. You won't know, but if you've had a baby, you've experienced this. That they'll tell you, the nurse will come in and tell you at night, says, now we can take the baby to the nursery. Or is the nursery? Is that
take the nursery.
We can take the baby to the nursery so you can get a good night's sleep, and so forth. And they encourage you to take advantage of that. And I remember even in the birthing class, they were telling us, take advantage of that. Okay, you're not taking my baby away from me the first night. Not gonna happen. That baby, we went through 9 months of labor, and we went through, and fortunately, my wife got to feel it, experience it. But for me as the father, I don't get to experience. This is my first experience with the baby. You're not taking that baby away from me. That was what I said up until about 3 a.m. in the morning.
So the baby stayed with us the first night. She was crying a lot, you know, which is normal. You know, she's been in the womb for 9 months. Now she's outside in the world. It's not as warm. It's not as cozy. But after that first night, the baby was in the nursery until we left.
I don't think the baby was with us the whole first night. I think the baby went to the nursery like 4 a.m. I'm pretty sure Annalise went to the. I'm pretty sure Annalise.
I thought she stayed with us.
She stayed with us a good portion of the night, but I think she went to the, because I was knocked out. I could not deal with. I couldn't. It wasn't that she cried a lot. It was that she would, when I would finally get to sleep, she would start crying. And so finally, I think about 4 a.m. I think it was about 4 a.m. We finally called the nurse back and said, "You can take her and bring her back for her morning feeding."
Oh yeah, that yeah.
So about 4 a.m. we finally called the nurse and said, "Okay, you can come get the baby." And here's the thing: don't feel like a failure for that. Okay, I know I felt bad at first when we first had a call, but you've you've gone through as a father and as a mom. Of course, the mom is going through the most of it, but as a father, your emotions and the tension is high for like, I mean, we were there 15 hours at, at that time. So all that adrenaline is going in you for that time. You're going to crash. The baby doesn't know that. The baby doesn't know that you've been hyped up on adrenaline for 12 to 15 hours or more in some cases. And the baby's not going to give you a reprieve. So don't feel bad on taking up that nurse on her offer and saying, yes, please take the baby to the nursery, because again, you're going to need your rest. You will have plenty of time. You have 18 plus years with this baby. You will have plenty of time with your child. So take the rest that you can get during those moments.
Because when you get home, there's not going to be a nurse.
No.
I mean, unless you hire a nurse, which we didn't have a nurse. We did it ourselves.
Which most people don't.
Right.
So now we're home. Mm-hmm. And the baby, of course, is sleeping with us for you. I know, like at first, like you wanted how many months the baby for us to stay with us? A year. Mm-hmm. I wanted, like the doctor had told us 5 months, 6 months. After the first week, I was counting down. So I was counting down to put that baby in her own room. So 6 months. You're out of here. You're going to your own room. Oh my God. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that.
We always have cameras and monitors. So if that baby cries or even coughs or sneezes or does anything, we hear it.
Yeah.
I hear it more now than he does. But
now when the baby was younger, I heard it. I was pretty attuned. When we first got home, the baby, we had one of the, what is it called, an arms to reach? Was that what it was called?
Yeah, arms to reach.
We had an arms to reach crib that was connected to the bed, and so we would take turns. Sometimes the baby was on my side, sometimes the baby was on her side, and so forth. And I can honestly say it was only rough for maybe a couple weeks. And Elise was pretty good about sleeping for most of the night. I mean, there were times I remember having to wake her up. Both of our babies.
Yeah,
really
we were pretty fortunate and blessed in that area.
We had to wake her up to give her her 3 o'clock feeding.
Yeah, after the first week or two, they slept pretty good. They slept pretty, at least 4 hours straight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we were pretty fortunate and so forth. But it was always interesting to have to get up, and like I said, after the first 4 or 5 weeks, we had to, like I said, we'd have to wake the baby up to get her to feed. And so I remember when I'd have to wake her up, I would do everything I can, and like I think the trick that we finally got was changing her diaper before we fed her. I think that was what we finally ended up, how we ended up waking her up, because she didn't like having a diaper change. So, so we get her up and change her diaper, and that would wake her up. Because before, I would try to change her diaper right before I put her back down after. So I would try to feed her, and then I would change her diaper, and she would sit there and fall asleep in feeding every time. She would never take the bottle. She would never take the bottle. She would always fall asleep in feeding. And so finally, I think one time, I think you're the one who realized, well, why don't you actually suggest, why don't I change the diaper first, and that'll wake her up. And that was a lifesaver, to just wake her up, to go ahead and change the diaper, and then that kind of woke her up. And by the time she finished the bottle, she was dozing off again and ready to go back to sleeping. So we kind of got in a routine. It worked out perfectly.
It really did. Yeah, both of our girls were really good to us in terms of letting us get some sleep. So thank you, girls.
Yeah, thank you, girls, if you're watching this later. And so forth.
So what was your most terrifying moment?
During infancy? So once we got them home?
Yeah.
I can't say that my most terrifying moment was a specific moment. I think it was my mind. And here's why I say it, because I remember when at 6 months when we decided that, okay, she's going to go in and stay in her own room. The way our house is designed, our master bedroom is downstairs. And then all the other bedrooms are upstairs. And I just remember how uncomfortable I was at first with her being upstairs. And of course, as a man, you're thinking of all scenarios. So I remember I kept thinking, God forbid if there's a fire, how am I going to get up to her room? You know, if it's blocked, how am I going to get up there to get her? Mm-hmm. And I just remember thinking through those things, and like I think I ended up in the room next to hers. I would leave the window unlatched so that if there was a fire and I had to get to her, I could get the ladder out of the garage, go around. I had it all mapped out in my head. Like I would get the ladder out of the garage, go around to the back, go through because I didn't want to leave her window open just in case she had learned how to crawl or learn how to walk and could climb up on something. But I could get the ladder out of the garage, go around the back, put the ladder in the window to the room next to hers, and get upstairs to get her and get back down. I think those were the most terrifying. That was probably the most terrifying thing to me, was thinking through the what if scenarios of what to do as a father to keep my child safe.
Wow.
What about you?
I think my scariest moment, and it's so silly, I don't even know if I've told you this, was the first time that I drove in the car with the baby by myself.
I remember this.
So, you know, when I was on maternity leave, for, you know, there's quite a few weeks where your doctor recommends that you don't drive. So I wasn't driving. But, you know, by this point, you know, Chris had gone back to work, and, you know, after a while being in the house, you just kind of want to get out. So, me and my daughter, you know, we were home, and I said, you know, maybe I'll just go get something for lunch, you know, just go to the drive-thru. We're not really going anywhere per se, but, you know, we're getting out of the house, and I'm just kind of changing up the scenery a little bit. So we, you know, I got her, I put her in the car, and we pulled out. And at this point in this car that I was driving that day, I didn't have like a mirror or anything where I could actually see her. So I'm in the car, and we're driving down the block, and she's like really quiet, and I couldn't see her. And so I might have made it around the corner, and I was like, I can't wait till I get to the stop so I can get out and check on the baby. And so before I could really get out of our neighborhood, I like stopped, got out of the car, looked, checked on the baby, make sure she was breathing. She was fine, but she was just a little too quiet for my comfort. So I had to check on her. And then later I was talking to a friend, and I was telling her that story. I was like, you ever have that? She's like, oh yeah, I did the same thing. I was scared too. So maybe it's just, I don't know if it's a mom, I don't know if dads go through it, but you know, maybe it is a mom thing. I don't know, but that's my experience. So
the dad moment for that is not necessarily getting out the car, but my moment was reaching, because she was on your side. She was on she's on the passenger side. So my moment is reaching to the back and putting my hand, because of course your baby's rear facing. If you should be rear facing. I'm not judging anybody, no judgment. But
if your baby's not rear facing, you might want to reassess that. You need to
as an infant, and beyond.
As long as you can.
As long as you can. So anyway, so my moment before we got the mirror where we could see it was I would put my hand back and put my hand on her chest. She would make sure she was breathing. So we had the same thing. It was just different.
Yeah, I gotta see you. I gotta see you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
we definitely had those moments.
That was my moment. So another scary moment for me was with my oldest daughter. She was born before the pandemic. So we did go out a lot, you know, in terms of going to stores, and we would go shopping together, and I would have her in the stroller while we were out. And I thought I was very vigilant of my surroundings, but there were a few times where someone just kind of came out of the blue and was like, can I see your baby? And because I always had her, you know, if she was sleeping, I'd have her covered up so you really couldn't see her so she could rest. And it's just when someone just kind of out of the blue comes up on you and is like, hey, can I see your baby? it just like threw me because I'm like, where did you come from? And sometimes depending on the person I'm comfortable, I'd be like, okay, you can get a little peek, but I would never let anybody hold my child ever. You take a little look, but you're not holding my child. If I don't know you, no way. So, but in those moments when someone would kind of come up on me and try to see the baby, those things really did scare me a little bit.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think, again, as a parent, that's our job, to be protective of our children. We don't know those people.
Yeah.
It's not about being mean or anything like that. But I don't know you, and if I don't know you, I got to protect my child and make sure that, my child is safe. So I applaud you for that.
Well, thank you.
So now, I think as Annalise grew and now she starts walking and this, I don't think Annalise ever started walking. I think she's just started running. maybe 2 days. She walked maybe 2 days.
Yeah.
Like as soon as she could figure out, if I move my legs faster, I can get from here to there faster and drive my parents crazy. She was doing it.
Absolutely. I'm not going to disagree with you.
Yeah. Like I remember right before she started walking, 10 months? I think she took her first step. Maybe 11. Maybe 11. Beginning of the 11th month, she took her first step. Beginning of the 11th month, she's walking. By her first birthday, she was running around the house. Because you remember during her first birthday and everybody was here, she was actually running around the living room with the other kids. And we were worried because we thought that she was too small and could get hurt because she's running with the kids. You remember that? You don't remember it? She wasn't running like she is now, but she was running like maybe running is the wrong terminology. Maybe walking really fast. She wasn't just waddling anymore. Or, she was walking pretty fast.
Yeah, okay. I think his terminology for running is different than mine. So
I think she was running. Maybe one day we'll post it. Maybe we'll post it on social media and let you be the judge. But anyways, she was walking really fast, and so I remember looking and thinking like, when did she just like get up off the ground and start running? And it just seemed like I remember her crawling. I remember those vividly. I remember her scooting, and we got it on camera of her scooting and us encouraging her to scoot. Mm-hmm. But it just seemed like she went from that to walking fast in like
she did
a very short amount of time.
I agree. I mean, it was like she learned how to walk, and then it seemed like the next day she was running. Like she was. Like,
see, now she said running. That? Y'all heard that. She said
now,
running.
Don't take me literally when I say the next day.
Running. Thank you.
I don't mean it in the literal term.
When she started walking and moving around, our life has never been the same since.
No. Now, once they're mobile, it's over. You better baby-proof your house.
So walking is different for every child. So our first child started walking at around 11 months. And was pretty much almost running or walking fast by his first birthday. Her first birthday. We have a little girl.
Something you tell me.
was pretty much walking fast by her first birthday. That's not typical. But it's also not atypical. I say that because many parents look forward to that age and look forward to their children walking, but children walk at all different ages. Again, from owning a daycare, I've seen children walk as early as 8 months. I've seen children walk as late as I think the latest I've seen was 15 months. Yeah. We actually had a 15-month-old that she didn't start walking until she was 15. Sometimes it's because of developmental reasons, meaning maybe their legs aren't strong enough to support them. Maybe they may be on the smaller size. A lot of premature children don't walk until a little bit later, just because, again, you have to think of the gestation period. I think it's gestation period. I hope that's the right word. It is. Okay. Yeah, thank you. The first birthday is actually earlier from the point of conception than a child that was carried to full term. So a lot of times they won't walk until later. So again, with walking, that's one of the things that as parents we can quickly panic because, oh, why is my child not walking? My child's 12 months. I hear parents all the time. My child's 12 months old. My child's 13 months old. Why isn't she walking yet? Or why isn't he walking yet? That's completely normal. And then sometimes, like it was with our second child, completely by choice.
Yeah.
Completely by choice. Our second child, we could see that she was walking. She knew how to walk, and she just chose not to because she got around faster by crawling. I'm convinced that it was a sign of high intelligence because like I could literally see her make the decision in her head. I get from point A to point B faster by crawling than I do by walking right now, and decided to walk. I'm convinced she was that was an intelligent, critical thinking decision.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell that she looked like she could walk and wanted to, but she didn't want to.
Yeah.
So she just made the decision that she was going to do it when she was ready. Mm-hmm. And you'll see that with other things with children. Like sometimes there's certain things that they can do, but they decide they don't want to do it right now. And, you know, when they're good and ready, they'll do it.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay. I will say one of the things that I felt like we did pretty well, we communicated heavily with our pediatrician. Now, we were not the parents that ran to the pediatrician every time little Susie got a boo-boo or something like our child's not named Susie, but every time our child got a boo-boo or something like that, or every time she sneezed or coughed, we didn't run to the doctor. I don't think with our oldest, I don't think we ever took her to the doctor outside of her normal appointments, did we? Because she didn't actually. I think at one point she did start showing allergies around age 2, but even up until then she didn't really show allergies. So I don't remember us ever taking her to the doctor for something other than a normal appointment. Yeah, we were never really one to run to the doctor with our children and so forth. But when we did go for those scheduled appointments, we had our questions lined up that we needed to ask, and so forth, and we listened to what the doctor said and so forth. It was a very high level of communication with the doctor in terms of the development of our children and so forth. Now, I'm not saying we did everything, because the one thing that comes to mind was our doctor didn't believe in children having juice, and so we of course we did give our children a little bit of juice, and so forth. So just different things. So, but again, so it was a high level of communication though, between ourselves and between ourselves and the doctor, and I feel like that contributed to just what I would really consider, a very healthy level of growth. The biggest takeaway from that first year that I would say, enjoy the moments.
Enjoy the moments quickly. And take lots of pictures and video.
Yes.
Pictures and video. That way you can look back and remember this stuff, because so many things happen that you're not going to always remember it. And also, if you can, I didn't do it as much as I would like to. I'm trying to start back now, is journal too. Journal these experiences you have with your child, or maybe you could do like a vlog, like a video log or something. That might be a little faster, but just do something to savor these moments so you can look back in later years and remember. So whether it be pictures, you do a journal, you do video, do something.
They go by so quickly.
No, they do.
They do. Yeah. They go by so quickly. And again, even now at 4 years old, I was looking at our oldest child the other day and thinking and I think I even said it, she's gotten so much older. She seems older now, she seems like a different child to an extent. And it's like, where did time go? Now she's telling me about her friends and telling me about, this and that. And it's just like, oh my gosh, she's just so
So we do have a tip of the week for you all.
Yeah.
And the tip of the week is read to your child every night. There are really good benefits of reading to your child daily, especially at the end of the day. Reading with your child at night is a good way to bond after a long, hectic day. So it's a nice way to spend quality time with your child while creating a bedtime routine. Reading also does help with language development, and also it helps to spark the curiosity of your child to start to develop that love for reading and also working on their listening skills.
I actually look forward to reading with our children at night, and I think they look forward to it. It's become a routine. It's become, that's our time, and so forth. And as you said, it really does help their language skills. I see it all the time at the school. You can tell the parents that talk to their children regularly, that read to their children, versus the children that they're not getting that level of communication from their parents or from siblings or from adults in their environment. In general, not always the case, but in general, the language skills aren't lacking, but they're more advanced in the households that where children are typically being read to or talked to more extensively.
Yeah, it's definitely a good benefit. We do have a couple of websites you may want to check out in terms of where you could potentially get free books. One of them is imaginationlibrary.com. This website is by Dolly Parton. She does provide free books for children in Tennessee, but she has also started offering this service in other locations. So if you check out that website, you can look up the area where you live to see if the free books may be available to you. If so, these books are available. You'll get a free book every month from when your child is born up until age 5. And it's a really, really good program.
We do that one. We have the Imagination Library, and our children absolutely look forward to those books every time they come in. They cannot wait for us when they come in. They can't wait for us to open them up and read them. They want us to read them immediately right there, stop whatever we're doing. So it's also a good way for your children to look forward to reading, because they're getting something in the mail. It's not just mommy and daddy getting something in the mail. It's they're getting something in the mail. I know they like to go out to the mail with us to check the mail and see if they got anything. And they're just so excited when they see those books come in. Even when they get the same book 3 times. I've seen, even when it's the same book, I've seen them over the course of 4 years. I've seen them get the same book like 3 or 4 times, and they still excited about it.
Another website that is available is freechildrenstories.com. And this website is available to everyone. You go on there and you can look for books based on your child's age. And there's an option where you can just read the book to your child, or a lot of the stories do have a YouTube channel that's connected to it where they'll actually read the story for you. So definitely something you may want to check out, and hopefully you'll have happy reading with your children. So today we talked about pregnancy, labor and delivery, and the first year of being a parent. So we hope that we shared an experience with you that you could relate to, or if you're not a parent yet, maybe something to think about or take into consideration. But we did enjoy you all today, and thanks for tuning in.
As always, we want to leave you with one thought.
We love you, but God loves you most of all. And enough.